Snow White is apparently as bad as expected. Which, to the critical reviewer, that is expected. But this movie is not for me and the reviewer. It's for kids, right? But here's the thing. This movie, it's kind of mirrored. It's kind of funny how yin and yang, Assassin's Creed Shadow and this movie have been. They've had a lot of similarities, man. And I'll get into it in this breakdown, I'm sure. But it's very interesting how these both arrived around the same time period. But yeah. Critical Drinker, he's probably going to tear this movie to shreds. Snow White, it's even worse than expected.
There are certain fundamental truths about this world which are so universal that anyone, no matter their race, color, or creed, can pretty much agree on them. 1. Never trust a post-Vindaloo fart. 2. Spreadable butter isn't. 3. Anytime a woman starts a sentence with, "a real man would," you know you're about...
Yeah, that's some real feminist shit for sure. A real man would open the door. I mean, that's common courtesy, but there's a lot of statements that follow. A real man would. That might not be as common, but you know, it's the modern audience, the modern population, modern ethics. I don't know what you want to call it, but there's something in the water these days.
To hear some weapons grade retardation.
And it's also on the right side too, like the right, left. It's men, women, but everybody's tripping these days. I see a guy fucking cutting up a bunch of good fruit, dude, and he's just shoving his face into it with ice cubes. It's like, what are you drinking with your skin pores?
And to that not so illustrious list, we can add that the Snow White live action remake was, without a doubt, one of the worst ideas in the whole history of entertainment.
This
possibly the most predictable of all failures. A project conceived for all the wrong reasons, starring all the wrong people, pushing all the wrong messages, and...
I'm not gonna lie, I don't mind the casting of Miss Wonder Woman, right? You know what I'm talking about? It's not like the most acting chops, like you don't have to, and to be frank, these actors are not like talentless. Like Rachel's not talentless. She has an amazing voice. She just came off as a fucking asshole, honestly. I think that's the whole reason this movie had so much hype behind it, because she came off as this I don't need a man asshole mentality, you know, that hyper feminism that just doesn't really, like, you know, you can here and there it's like memeable, but it's when it came off with her, it was self-destructive.
Telling the entirely wrong story. After all the delays and the controversies and the speculation that have been swirling around it for what feels like decades now. I
feel like this movie got delayed more than any modern movie. Has there been another movie like this with the amount of delays and reactionary change of directions? Like, I think this movie needs to be studied. And it is very interesting. I know it's a fucking kid's movie, to be honest, but the whole premise of this, it puzzles me, man. It really does. It feels like this went through more redirections than some modern video games nowadays, which is crazy. You'll have games that have delays, like 3 different delays or whatever it might be, and they come out, and sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're not good, sometimes they're really bad, and they age and get better. But you don't have that. You don't get to update the movie, right? Unless you're George Lucas. Maybe they'll do that. Disney, you know, they own some of George Lucas's properties, so maybe they'll carry on that trend.
It was actually kind of weird to finally sit down and just watch this thing, like meeting a celebrity after following their career for years. Not a good kind of celebrity, like more like a Jimmy Savile kind of celebrity.
I almost went and watched this movie, and it was like Saturday night or whatever. It was the night that I didn't go out. And I was like, hey, my fiance, hey, you want to go watch a movie? And I was like, let's go watch White. And she wanted to see it. And I was like, I kind of want to go see it because I think it's going to be really bad. And I kind of want to laugh through it. But then I was like thinking in my head, I'm be around like a lot of like little kids. Like, what other grown men are going to be watching this movie by themselves? That whole concept is fucking nutty to me. And then I saw Mickey 17. The trailer of that, I was like, oh, this looks weird. It looks up my alley. So we went and saw that instead. It was interesting. But it's probably better than this, that's for sure.
The kind that you're discreetly warned never to get into a lockable room alone with.
Yeah.
But here it is nonetheless, and now that I've finally suffered through nearly 2 hours of Snow White, I can confidently tell you that, yes, this film absolutely lived up to all my worst expectations, and in some cases even exceeded them. A bloated, overstuffed turkey of a production, weighed down by hammy acting.
2 hours is impressive. Because think of all the bloat that they cut off of it, and like they're like completely reshot because they didn't need to use it anymore. And then on top of that, re-edited, like edited out all the what was it, the 9 misgenders or something. It was like the 9 randos instead of the dwarves.
Cheap costumes, horrendous CGI, and vomit-inducing cinematography that bungles most of the elements it steals from the original animated.
I don't think that's a big bad thing. It's a fucking live action Disney movie. It's the CGI is for kids. Honestly, I think the only like a real CGI that like you wanted to bang as hard as possible was probably Lion King, because, you know, it was more of a cultural importance. It's like, look how far we've come with our animation. Everything after that is just like icing on the cake. And frankly, Lion King I thought was phenomenal.
Abandons its classic ideals of self-sacrifice, heroism, and true love, and injects the lethal dose of the message, which is so redundant and thematic.
That's a lot of stuff right there, Jesus.
Injects the lethal dose of the mess.
We got diversity, we got rainbows, pink fist. Hell yeah, I got 2 of them. Double decking, baby. Safe zone. Let's work together. Equality, roses, justice, and social are balanced. Salute, hiya, adios. What is all this? What is all this? What is all this nonsense? I think this is nothing offensive, at least. On the surface.
Which is so redundant and thematically contradictory that it just gets abandoned by the end.
Could use the better graphic.
Also laughably obvious where they've had to reshoot and rewrite big chunks of this movie in response to all the backlash. Entire subplots, characters, and setups are introduced and then abandoned without explanation, and the ending is so wildly anticlimactic and jarring that it makes World War Z look like a model of cinematic efficiency.
So this is a remake. I do want to see this because I'm curious if they're going to do Who's the Fairest of them all. And it'll be interesting if they... I've heard people say that they're going to change that because she's not technically white. This screen that I need to get off of this. This is
anyway, let's get
me.
the plot summary over with so we can put this turd behind us.
I'm not really smelling.
The basic setup for Snow White is broadly similar to the original film.
Okay.
Snow White herself is born to the benevolent king and queen of a generic medieval fantasy land that tactfully goes unnamed. Although, fuck me, they must have pretty good transportation links with the rest of the world because the population here is more ethnically diverse than central London. Okay. Anyway, Snow White's mom dies and her dad...
What is magical world? They might have, you know, something like the, you know, Harry Potter little teleporter thing.
Remarries Gal Gadot, who manipulates him into going off to war, where he promptly disappears and is never seen again. Ooh. Oh no, guess she's gonna have to take control of everything. What a bind. Fast forward a few years and the kingdom's become a kind of dystopian nightmare where everyone's poor and hopeless and ruled over by an iron-fisted tyrant. It's a bit like modern day Britain, only with better sanitation and dental care. Anyway, after a confrontation with Snow White over a bandit named Jonathan who tried to steal some food from the castle, the evil queen decides the best thing to do is send her out into the forest where the huntsman can conveniently murder her. It's a bit extreme, but I'll let it.
That is odd. I don't like that. Everything to build up to it, I think that it sounds fine to me, actually, from like a creative direction. But that part's a little weird. Like sending off that guy to war. You know, there's some storylines you could pull from the Bible. Obviously, the Bible, not everybody agrees with it, but there's a lot of different story elements that are applied in a lot of modern storytelling. Like Avengers does it. You know, there's a lot of movies that do it. Most super movies actually tie into the Bible in a way. You can like at least relate a story in a way to it. Not going to go down that rabbit hole because that's a long one.
Slide. Naturally, the huntsman has second thoughts and decides to let her go. And after wandering alone for a while, she runs into 7 dwarves that I can only describe as the kind of thing that Cthulhu probably has.
Yeah, the CGI never really bothered me
that I can only describe
in the trailers, but that shot right there looks really nutty. And I know it's really pixelated right now because I got a lot of stuff running.
It's the kind of thing that Cthulhu probably has nightmares about.
Oh, man.
I'm not kidding, man. The brief glimpses that you got of these things in the trailers are absolutely nothing compared to the
That's what I was afraid of.
Existential horror of actually witnessing them on the big screen. These are nightmares.
I kind of want to see it now. I don't want to support it. Like, I want to help it get closer to its budget. Because I think there's lessons that need to be taught. Like, I think this movie is going to teach everyone in the movie industry to correctly PR train your actors. Especially your stars, right? The higher up you're on the payroll, the more hours you probably should have in PR training. And I'm not talking about like the woke bullshit PR, like actual culture lesson or whatever it is, but like an actual like, hey, you might believe this, these political views are fine, yada yada yada, but keep it to your own personal accounts and stuff like that. You know, when you're being interviewed for Snow White, let's not go down that rabbit hole, right? We're trying to push the movie, not certain political points. I think that's just easier to sell a movie, and not even that, easier to not get less criticism, because we live in a day of clicks and headlines, and a lot of shit's exaggerated. And when you give someone a really good clip, well, it's going to get exaggerated, and then it's going to be an insane clip.
Made real. Like if you woke up in the middle of the night and saw Mr. Blobby standing at the foot of your bed.
I don't know what that is.
Silent,
I don't like it.
Motionless, watching you with the...
I'll shoot this fucker in the head with a bow. I might aim at one of the dots, pretending it's a kidney, hit it up a little higher, so when he stands up a little bit, you hit him in the lung or something, in the heart. Yeah, I can't shoot that fucker. My neighbors would be scared of that, but bow, we can get him with a bow.
Those blank, lifeless eyes that bore into your very soul.
Yeah.
So after crashing at their house for a while, eating their food and helping herself to all of their resources, Snow White helpfully forces them to clean up their own home while she prances around like she's on some mad acid trip. Which she probably is, to be fair. I would be if I was in this fucking movie.
Yeah, what is this, Alice in Wonderland or fucking Snow White,
some reason she gets it into her head that her dad must still be alive, and the only way to find him is to seek out the bandits that lurk in the forests.
This guy looks like Gollum.
It's the lurk in the forests.
Does that not look like what Gollum might look like? If you never saw like the Hobbit version of Gollum, I feel like this might be him, bro. He might be him.
Right.
So naturally, she runs into Jonathan about 5 minutes after leaving the house so that the rest of the plot can happen, and he protects her from the evil Queen's soldiers by taking an arrow that was meant for her, so she brings him back to the dwarves to get fixed up. Oh yeah, you know those retarded-looking Starbucks baristas from those early set
I like how they got introduced because, was it Peter Danish or whatever his name is, the guy from Game of Thrones, thought it was offensive that using dwarves in a modern movie was offensive, and I don't know if this is exactly what correlated to changing the direction of this nonsense and then causing more reactionary change of directions later down the line, but this guy on the bottom right, look, I'm covering him. He looks just like them. Looks like his little cousin or something. What? I just hear people saying that's the reason they changed to this direction. I don't even know if that's true. Comment down below if you know for a fact that's true. That would be interesting to know.
Pictures that everyone thought were the dwarves. Well, those are the bandits who are actually out of work actors forced to become...
Like, they got Colin Kaepernick. Like, dude, what are we doing? My God, fucking Ryan Fitzpatrick,
thieves because the evil Queen's taxation policies shut down their entire industry. Is that a reference to something? Is that a reference to something?
What is Trump doing right there? I think he's trying to summon something.
No idea. Anyway, Jonathan decides to lure the Queen's soldiers away to give Snow White time to escape, and then immediately gets captured because he's a bumbling idiot. And the evil Queen decides that she's had enough of this shit. Frankly, one sympathizes, so she turns herself into an old hag and manipulates Snow White into eating a poisoned apple that makes her go a bit dead. But that's okay because Jonathan escapes prison so that the rest of the plot can happen and gives her the world's least passionate kiss, which brings her back to life so that she can be-
Wait. I thought the whole purpose of this movie was not to have a prince save the day. So after all that shit talking and all that unneeded attention to this movie, you're telling me the prince still saved the day? It's actually, this is a great scenario, an example that shows real life situations. Like, for instance, my fiance sometimes will argue where we're going to get something to eat. You know, I'm like, hey, what do you want to eat? I'm down to get whatever. I'm a guy. I could find something on the menu. There's going to be some kind of protein anywhere I go. I'm good. Anything you want, let's get it. Well, I don't know. I don't know what I want. All right. You want this? No. Do you want this? No. Do you want that? No. Okay, well, let's go here. No, I want to go here. It's like, all right, whatever. After all this, all this nonsense, we still end up where we gonna go.
Begin her cunning plan to overthrow the queen and take back her kingdom. Do you want to know what that plan is?
Yeah.
Are you ready for the fourth dimensional quantum mega chest?
All right, let me settle down. I gotta comprehend this. I have a monkey brain. All right, I think I'm ready. Maybe I need to take some neuro gum. Nah, it can't be that crazy, right?
That she plays here that would probably give Christopher Nolan a brain hemorrhage? Well, she walks into town and then convinces the soldiers to turn against the evil queen because she can remember their names.
It's a kid's show. Kid's show, bro. It's a kid's show. It's a kid's show. It's for the kids. The kids are dumb. The kids are stupid as fuck. The kids will learn a good lesson from this movie. When you grow up, remember people's names because you could save the world by knowing someone's name, which is actually kind of true. We live in a society nowadays where, unfortunately, there's people that go crazy and play Nerf wars in real life. And, you know, if you remember someone's name and you talk to them like a person, you never know how you can impact that person's life. This is actually a great lesson for our youth. I'm not being ironic. Like, it actually is. But it's fucking hilarious. Like, what?
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. That big of a deal. That's her plan. So the evil queen gets mad and smashes the magic mirror and then turns into black glass and shatters, and Snow White becomes the new queen, and that's it. They all live happily ever after. Now, there's a lot I want to say about this movie, but first, let us begin with the positives.
Yes.
And as hard as it might be to believe, most of...
I'm guessing the singing is going to be good, because she is a phenomenal singer. Now, when I watched The Hunger Games, I believe she was in it, the new one. And I was like, why are we even doing this? It's a musical. Who likes musicals? My fiance asked me, we're going to New York to see her family. I'm going to New York for the first time. I'm not gonna say when, because there might be some crazy people on the internet that might want to like Luigi me or something. That'd be wild. Hopefully not. Knock on wood. But I was like, you know, what are we gonna do? And they were like, oh, we gotta go see a musical. We gotta go see Broadway. I was like, no, no. I'll go to like a Knicks game. Like, let me go to Rucker Park or something. I'm not gonna be going to a musical. It's not happening. I tried to watch half of Hunger Games and well, I fell asleep. I can't remember the last musical that was like actually like phenomenal.
I'm actually concerned Rachel Zegler.
I don't know.
No way! Now, don't get me wrong, she might be an obnoxious arsehole in the real world, but credit where credit's due here, she actually isn't terrible as Snow White.
She has acting chops, she does. She just came off as a royal bitch. And I think that whole situation happened before the Hunger Games, the new one, was even on streaming platforms. Because I remember going into watching that movie, and I was like, oh, is that chick? Is that chick? She doesn't like men? She doesn't like my kind? I was hot.
That's impossible! I mean, her outfit looks like it cost like $100 off Amazon. Her haircut makes Anton Chigurh like a cutting-edge trailblazer. Her performance is a bit over the top and theater kid at times, and her American accent comes and goes depending.
Also, I will say that the costume is spot on. It seems like, from what I remember, especially with the Queen, which I like it. She doesn't look like Snow White in my opinion. Like, she looks very, very close, but she looks like a fan fiction, like, you know, a cosplay.
On whether or not she's in a reshoot, but I do get the impression she's at least trying to do her best with the material, and she can absolutely belt out the musical numbers, which is pretty much what you'd expect from a trained vocalist. The same can.
He's underrating. She has an amazing voice. I remember watching Hunger Games and I was like, what the okay. I might not like her, but she's got some talent.
Not be said for Gal Gadot, however. It genuinely pains me to say this, but I
no.
think we all need to come to the acceptance that that girl cannot fucking act. It takes a special kind of charisma, presence, and dramatic range to play a good Disney villain, and well, Gal Gadot doesn't have it. Her delivery somehow manages to be wooden and scenery chewing at the same time, and when she has to deliver a big musical number, you can pinpoint the exact moment.
No. I didn't even think about that. She's sing it's please be lip singing. Like what? Like I don't watch a lot of kid movies anymore. But I think Moana 2 came out or something like that, and my sister played me some of the songs from Moana 2, and it had The Rock singing. That boy did not need to be singing. The Rock is so good at so many things. He don't need to be singing, man.
Where they swap out her voice with someone who can actually sing.
Imagine there's no heaven.
That's not that bad. That sounded good, but that's 3 seconds. And it's also not like range. You know, I can sing like that. It'll sound all right, in my opinion. But yeah, I want to see something with range.
Jonathan is yet another entry into the bumbling, forgettable, non-threatening male sidekick list of modern-day Disney heroes. There's brief moments where it seems like he might be displaying the tiniest bit of attitude and heroism, but then it's immediately squashed to reinforce the idea that men are all just a bit useless.
That sucks, because I remember watching a lot of Disney movies with my sisters, because they were older than me, and we watched Snow White, we watched Cinderella, I watched the movies with them, it was movie time, and I didn't get to watch Power Rangers and Pokemon and Justice League and Spider-Man and all my favorite cartoons every single time. No. We had to watch everything. We all like Star Wars. But I made the best of it watching these Disney movies. You know, there's some bangers in there that I watched as a kid, like Spirit. So there's guys out there that are young, that are begin growing up with older sisters, maybe even little sisters, who knows? And they're going to be watching these too. So it's nice to have a characters to someone to be like, yeah, I like that guy. I like the prince. I'm going to be like the prince one day.
Visually, the film's an inconsistent mess. CGI Cthulhu nightmares aside, the color scheme ranges from bleak, washed-out grey castles and towns that look like Zack Snyder directed it, to a kind of over-the-top golden yellow piss filter for the CGI woodland scenes that's so excessive it actually makes your eyes start to hurt after a while. It's funny as well because there's like one scene that was filmed on location in a real forest, and the contrast between that and the CGI fantasy version is so jarring, I actually thought the action had shifted to a whole different country. Also, you can absolutely tell this movie's been reshot to fuck. The kiss scene where Jonathan brings Snow White back to life,
I'm guessing that's a reshoot,
was absolutely added in later to try.
That's like the whole plot of the movie. Like, that's the main part I remember. And you didn't even want to incorporate that in the original vision. That is crazy, bro. Wow.
To appease fans of the original. Snow White herself has clearly been toned down in places to make her less obnoxious, and I'd be willing to bet about 90% of the bandits' screen time has been cut. Most of them don't even get a single line of dialogue, which...
Wait, they're the bandits. So they made the... Oh my god. Please tell me these aren't the bandits. Please tell me that these guys got removed completely. And I know a lot of people want their screen time, and if you have a movie like this where you have so many different reshoots, I'm sure there's a bunch of actors that all their tape got wiped out. They didn't make the cut, right? I feel bad for you, man. I do. Because you want to make the cut. You want to have something added to your resume. And please, for the love of God, tell me they didn't turn these guys into the bandits. That would be hysterical.
Once again had me questioning, why the fuck are they even in this movie? I think the biggest problem though is the ending. The original movie had the dwarves battling the evil queen to save Snow White, reinforcing the idea of reciprocal kindness and redemption, but here Snow White has to resolve everything by herself, and the result is that none of the other groups or factions have anything to do. Both the bandits and the dwarves, and even Jonathan, just kind of stand around watching the whole thing play out, and I couldn't help wondering, what is the film even trying to show us here? Snow White as a character seems to be all about equity and shared responsibility. rather than privilege and greedy self-interest, but when it comes to the crunch, she ends up having to do basically everything herself, which negates the very point the movie's been trying to make for the past 2 hours. It's this fundamental inability to understand what it's even trying to say, beyond the crushingly tired princess who saves herself trope that's now become the very cliche it worked so hard to overturn that proves to be the film's real undoing. In short, Snow White is a modern-day mess. A film that's basically been a disaster from start to finish, and now that it's finally out there and I've reviewed it, it's something I'm very much looking forward to tossing on the ash heap of history. Do yourself a big old...
There's a lot of those these days. That ashtray needs to get fucking, it needs to get emptied quite soon. It's already the beginning of the year. Isn't that crazy?
Save yourself some time and money and go watch the original instead.
Weird.
Anyway,
I forgot all
that's
about
all I've
that.
got for today.
Go away now. The Trinker's fucking hilarious, man. You know, hate him or love him, he's a fucking funny guy. If you hate him, you really probably hate him a lot. I think he's hilarious. It's kind of bittersweet, really. We come so far from, you know, the whole weird situation, and man, it's kind of sad to see this whole the hype train end. It'll be interesting to see if this movie makes its budget or surpasses it. I think it made it like 80 million in the theaters opening weekend or something like that, and I think the budget's like 200 million. I don't know. You know, when it comes to Disney, a lot of these numbers, it's kind of hard to put a real official stamp on it. Let's look at the comments though. Don't cry because it happened. Smile because it's over. Wise words. 100k views in half an hour. There were people more interested in your review than the movie. That's Hollywood, baby. I think there's a lot of people that gravitate to hateful content in general just because of the nature of, you know, you have people that are playing around with $200 million, and there's a lot of people out that think that if they had they had the creative chops where they give them 200 million, they're gonna make something that's special, something that's gonna pop. Now that might not be the case everywhere, with everyone, but still, there's a lot of people out there that look at the neglect of choices that people are taking in their creative endeavors, especially when it's really like corporate, like these huge companies like Disney, where you have like so many different companies underneath the umbrella, IPs underneath the umbrella, and it's just sad to see, man. It really is. It's very disappointing. Mirror, mirror on the wall, why are the seats empty in the cinema hall? Oh, what the heck? I agree with Rachel. It's not 1937 anymore. In 1937, they made good movies. I don't agree with that one. Can't think of any good movies from 1937. Walt Disney is competing with J.R.R. Tolkien, who is spinning in his grave the fastest. I think Walt's spinning a little bit faster, especially after season 2 of that last Slow in the Range project. It was a lot better than the first season, that's for sure. That's the reaction, man. Hit that sub button. Let's get to 1K. My name is Trey Swish. This is the Ether. I'm not the Ether. We're the Ether. Hit that sub button to join the Ether. A lot of big things on the way. I've been thinking about a lot of different creative endeavors. Speaking of which, and you know, I always experiment with the channel. So hit that sub button. Join the journey, man. There's Discord in the comment section. Comment down below your thoughts. How bad was this movie? If you saw it, are you even going to see it? Are you happy that this movie finally came out, so that we can get past this whole nonsense? Maybe you like this movie or you think this is overblown. Comment down below your thoughts. I'd love to hear them and continue the conversation in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next one, man. Deuces.